Hey, it's your girl Nancy Red, and this is season 3 of Mompreneurs, where every week we celebrate beautiful Black entrepreneurs who are simultaneously killing it as amazing business moguls and also moms. We listen to their life stories and inspiring advice. Now, this week's guest is extremely influential on social media, but you likely wouldn't know it. That's because she is what those in the know refer to as the Olivia Pope of social marketing. She's the person who influences influencer campaigns, and being a mom has really shaped her career, and I'm so excited to talk to her. Randi Matthews is the CEO and founder of Multi Hyphen Media. Now, Multi Hyphen Media is a leading boutique digital and social media marketing agency, and we're going to talk to my dear friend and role mama about how she's inspired by her kid, navigated by her kid, and how she continues to shape her entrepreneurial spirit based on what her family needs and, most importantly, what she needs. Welcome, Randi. I'm so excited to talk to you.
What an introduction. Thank you, Nancy. I'm so happy to be here.
Is there a lie detected?
No lies detected.
Because, I mean, that's why I do this show. It's not an entrepreneur show. I don't know what it is we're doing, but it's like paying the bills and keeping our sanity.
all important things. All important things.
Because, you more than a lot of people, you had a whole career going. You were doing your thing. I mean, there were things you weren't satisfied about, like all of us. However, motherhood really shaped your entrepreneurial spirit, right?
Absolutely. It absolutely did. I think it's one of those things where it's like you don't know until you know. You know, the kids say, if you know, you know. But it's what it was.
You would know what the kids say because you're on social media all the time. You have to know what the kids say.
I probably shouldn't say that, though. They're probably moving on to something else at this point. But I had a whole agency career. I was kind of like a lifetime agency person, and did some really huge campaigns, worked with a lot of really amazing celebrities and athletes and news anchors and you name it, brands. I've done it. And I just was feeling very kind of left behind in a system that doesn't always cater to women and people of color. And so when I had my son, I was like, I can do better, and I can do better for him. And so that's what I've been trying to do the last several years.
And so for people who have no idea what an agency is, essentially, let me just let you know, it is a very, very large thing, like CAA, William Morris, like all of these huge companies that basically manage the careers of companies and individuals. And these are great jobs. Great jobs
Wonderful
with health
jobs.
insurance. And Randi, you were right in there. You had the benefits, you had the 401k, but you didn't have what you needed to be a good mom.
I didn't have what I needed to be a good mom, and I didn't have the support or the encouragement that I needed internally to be able to be present for my family once I had a child.
So how did this conversation go? Well, before we get started, I ask everyone, what makes you a mompreneur? Like, what makes you different than an entrepreneur? Who makes you a mom? Tell us about the makeup of your household.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have a 5-year-old who is lovely. His name is Quinn, and he is equal parts amazing and challenging, as I like to say. He lights up my day, but he really gets on my nerves. If you are a mom, then you know, right? He's the best and the worst at the same time. But he is who made me a mommy, and I think I am forever grateful and thankful for him. I think women always do the most, but moms really take the cake. And I have a wonderful husband who I cannot do any of these things without. He is my biggest support. He was my biggest cheerleader when I decided to go out on my own and do my own thing. He is my IT, my built-in IT and tech. He's designed my website, designed my logo. He gives me all the great advice and encouragement that I need when I want it and when I don't want it.
And so what was his thought when you were just like, I don't know, man, this agency life is not for me? At what point were you pregnant? Were you thinking about having a kid? Did you have Gwen?
Well, I had already been thinking agency life wasn't for me. And then when we, if I'm being
who is not always thinking agency life?
When we decided to start trying for Quinn, I had already been in my mind thinking like, well, if we're going to start a family, does this work? Does this not work? But again, you only know what you know and what you've experienced, right? And so once I came back and realized that I was pregnant. I went to Carnival in Trinidad. So I'm saying this, once I came back from Trinidad, I almost immediately got pregnant with my son. And so I just quit my job and never looked back.
Okay, Randy's just living on life. She's just like, you know what? I'm gonna go. First of all, who were we that we could do things like I just went to Trinidad
We could
and
just go.
well, you know what? Yeah, that was really smart because do you think the way your brain changes after having a kid would it have been as easy to just drop
No,
my be like,
absolutely not.
I'm quitting my job? Ah!
Absolutely
And like,
not. I would have definitely been like, I have to keep the job, I have to keep the money, I have to keep the income, I have to do all these things because now I have a kid here and I have to be able to take care of it. It would have 100% probably backfired on me if I had waited too long. So I think in a lot of ways, even though I kind of left without a plan, in part because I kind of had reached my top with agency life, it prepared me, and it was like almost the perfect timing for me to get out and set a foundation before my son actually came.
and what a blessing because you have had a business that for quite some time has been profitable, which is not easy to do and is definitely not easy to do with a kid. So when we talk about the concept of why it's important to have shows like this and why we do what we do, it's something you said. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. How did you even find this industry? Because you were in social media marketing and the influencer world. You've been doing this for about 20 years before when social media was in its baby phase.
Yeah. I like to think one of my gifts is understanding white space in industry. I think it's something that I didn't even know that I was gifted with until after I left agency life, to be quite fair. I was doing it inside of agencies for the better part of my career, understanding that I was opening doors for new opportunities, for new profit and loss centers, for people to really shine, for people to be first to, best practices in new industry. And I didn't even see that as a skill or a gift until after I left. And I realized that, oh, I can do that for myself. And so I really credit it to a gift that I have been given. I think it's one of the things that has really shaped my career and been able to keep me kind of afloat, if you will, because I haven't really had much mentorship. I haven't really had much guidance. It's all a lot of intuition and trial and error. And so, but what I do well is I fail very well and I rebound very well.
Well, isn't that life, right? Because you fail like 300 times and you have like one win.
Yep.
So you're pregnant, you have no job, and you have this business that you want to start about something that none of us understand. Look, I'm not for. I still am having a difficult time understanding what you do. I think the idea of the influencer behind the influencing is much more helpful for those of us. So for a part of it, you're trying to help people understand what it is you're doing and the importance of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's still true today. Honestly, social media is kind of like one of those things that people just are in and out of in their daily practice. But I think because social media is so accessible to most people, they don't understand the strategy and the tactics and the best practices that come along with that when you're trying to build a brand or trying to launch a product or trying to build an entity. And so those are things that I'm constantly trying to educate along the way as I am learning myself, because as we all know, social media never stops. It's always on. And so it changes rapidly. Algorithms change, best practices change, the way that people use social changes. Influencers change. The big influencers that I know 10 years ago, that some of them are obsolete at this point. And so it's a constant state of transition. And so I think that's why I'm really good at it, because I'm kind of able to just keep my nose to the grindstone and understand that it's always going to change. And as long as I understand that, then I can change with it.
Oh, and having the canonical knowledge and understanding how fleeting even the most powerful person can be is also quite helpful. And you touch upon this as I have this gift. You also have the gift of being a woman of color.
Yes.
And the blessing of that is intimately the wage gap issue that in social media is staggering compared to compared even to just regular jobs.
Yep.
When we're looking at social media, one of the things that you do in your position at Multi Hyphen Media is you help this industry become healthier. Like, what does that mean? How do you help the influencer industry become healthier and more equitable?
I mean, it's similar to any other industry, because when you think about it, if there's no representation, nothing ever changes. And so for me, a lot of another reason why going on my own was so important is because I was working for places that only wanted to cast people that looked a certain way. And I don't have the power in those systems to push back. When I'm on my own, I do, and I can, and I will. And so it's one of those things where I can be smarter for the brand, smarter than the brand is, because they've hired me directly. So now I have the free will to say, you could do it this way, but this way looks a lot better and is a lot better for your business and ultimately your bottom line. And here's why. Everything has to be supported, right? Got to have data. You got to have research. There's also, I like to say, I have a mix of math and magic, because sometimes I just know. I just be knowing, y'all. And it's like, that is a gift as well. Like, I have a lot of industry knowledge. I have a lot of experience. I know a lot of people. And sometimes I just know, and you just got to go with it. And that's also sometimes when you fail, but that's also sometimes when you win big. And so I really lean into those skills and making sure that I'm creating a diverse story, a diverse representation, diverse influencer campaigns, and a diverse social plan, which means targeting audiences that they may not even know exist or have thought of in their campaigns before.
I feel like you should trademark Math the Magician, because that's really great. I really just am over here thinking that's another business for you, Randy. There's not enough people of color in math. Math the Magician.
Well, I didn't say I was good at math. Hold on, wait.
I want to rewind. No, but okay, but what you are good at is the math of business, right?
Correct.
And the math of hiring the actual people that deserve
Absolutely.
to get paid. Because one of the things that you work on that's really good for the community, it's really good for your child to see, is the people who generally were generating income for other people, namely people of color, namely women of color, creating all these things, providing entertainment, creating memes, creating dances. Usually in your previous world, who did the payments go to for influencing in regards to, oh, this person's doing something very popular? It went to who?
Not us. I'll tell you that. Not us. It went to the people who were benefiting from having seen and learned things from people like us. And so in this space, I'm able to kind of trace it back and say, like, this is the origin story. And this is the person that you think is going to give you the most influence. There's a world where we can do both. They can both work together, but it would be disingenuous for anybody to just continue on this path only using one aspect of the story, right?
So yes, it is, and it's also disheartening for people who are bringing the joy to social media to realize that they're not making the money off of it.
Absolutely.
It's the regrams, it's the reused content. So more people like you are needed to build a future where Quinn feels
Yes,
comfortable sharing his gifts so
exactly.
he can be out here, because at the same time you're raising this business baby, you're raising an actual baby. What was that like to do something so nebulous, in that fact that you're explaining to people and they're just like, well, why wouldn't I hire an agency? Why should I hire you? And you can't just be like, because I got this baby.
Yeah.
This is why you should hire me. But,
I
it's
mean,
hard.
I still go up against that. I had a call the other day where it was a referral and they're wanting me to pitch myself. I'm like, you were referred to me. Do I have to pitch myself to you? I don't, and I'm at the point now where I also I mean, we all need business. We all have to pay the bills, but I can comfortably say, if you can't see my decks and you can't see my case studies and you can't hear it from me talking to you and see it from the success that I've had in these other opportunities, and you're still asking me questions or feeling like maybe I'm not the right fit for you, I can confidently say that you are not the right fit for me. And that is a power that I do not take lightly. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to turn people away or to turn business away. And I think it's something that I take great pride in, actually, that I can say no to people and say, you know what, I don't think this is a working fit for us, but I have some other recommendations of other people that you can work with that you may be a better fit for. Um, and that is something that is the gift that keeps on giving when you're an entrepreneur or a mompreneur.
What it's true because you do have to weigh, is this client going to take away from my being able to be there for my family? Is
Yep.
the ROI worth it?
And usually it's not. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. The more work it is on the front end, the more work it's going to be in general. And so it's always, a lot of times it's the smaller clients, the ones that you really want to work with, that you want to see do well, that are the ones that drain you, which is really unfortunate. Um, but I think it's one of those things where it is, you know, I have the benefit of going to pick up my son from school every single day. And I can do that and block it off my calendar, and nobody's in my ear talking about you need to get back online or you didn't get this done. And that's a beautiful thing. And my son doesn't, that's normal to my son. And he thinks it's interesting when I'm not there to pick him up. He's like, where were you, mom? What were you doing? Why weren't you here? And so like that is a gift that I will forever be grateful for.
And it's one that it's so valuable, and it's so worth all of the drama of having to have your own business, is that time, the ability to actually parent. I mean, you work more hours sometimes, but
Yeah.
you can work it in the middle of the night when
Yeah.
they're asleep.
And also a lot of the times too, and I mean, we're doing busy work, you know, it's like I can get my work done in a fraction of the time that a lot of other people can, just because I've been doing it for so long. And so my time management skills are tight, and then when you add being a mom into that, they're even tighter. So you know, I'm making dinner, I'm picking up my kid, you know, my husband and I still got to spend some time together. And so I got to manage all of that and get my work done. And if I know that I can do that in 3 hours and do other things instead of coming back to it later on at night and trying to add on more hours of my time that I want to go to sleep, then I can do that. And I can manage the time and I can be done with it and just put it to bed and put myself to bed too.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's impressive that you're able to put yourself to bed. I'm still working on that. I've really got to do better about my sleep.
Sleep's
But
important.
oh yes, it is very important. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
I just have to
It's
yell at you. Sleep's
I
important.
mean, I know. It's like I wanted someone needs to yell at me. But one of the things that you said is like, well, I can do it faster than anyone. Fast
Mm-hmm.
does not mean bad. I always like to
No.
use the plumber
Mm-mm.
analogy, right? You know, the plumber comes, you got a leak. The plumber comes and looks at it and hits it someplace, and it works, and says, "I'll be $100." Now, like, you were here for 30 seconds,
That's it.
and he says, "Yes, it was 25 cents for my time and 99.75 for the knowledge of doing this 20 years. That makes
Exactly.
it $100."
Exactly. It's just like, you know, you can diagnose a symptom. You can, you know, when you've been doing something a long enough time, you can look at something and be like, oh, I know that's not right. It's a easier place to start than not knowing at all, right? So yeah, 100%. You're getting the benefit of my experience, my knowledge, you know, the gift of, you know, having people who are working with me who are smarter than me. There's a lot of things that, you know, being on an entrepreneur or mompreneur allows me to have a benefit or a leg up with.
Well, you mentioned a team that's smarter than you.
That's right.
Hiring a team is hard. It's one of the worst things when it comes to um, it's one of the worst things when it comes to entrepreneurship, in particular when you have a family, right? I find that the youth of the solo people, they don't mind taking risk and hiring people and firing people and doing all this stuff, because whatever their burn rate is, it's irrelevant. Because like, what is it? It's not a, it's just life. And we're just like, okay, I got tuition. I
Right.
got these
That's
things. Like,
real.
it's hard to choose to bring people onto your team because it's so expensive. That's like often one of the most expensive aspects of running a business. How do you know when to expand and know when to get help and know when to bring people into your team?
The easiest answer I have to that, which is kind of how I've been living my life, is that when I am either too tired to do it or I have reached a point where I don't know how to do it. And I'm smart enough to know that I don't know everything, right? Can't be we all can't be great at everything. I'm great at a lot of things, but I am not great at everything. And so that's how I have really expanded. The first time I realized that I needed to hire someone to help me build decks and to um, help me to like organize notes from clients and stuff, that was when I hired my first coordinator. and so forth, so on and so forth. The first time I realized that like I couldn't keep up with the emails in my inbox, I hired an assistant. The first time I couldn't be the lead on all the projects, I hired a project manager. And so that is literally how I have kind of scaled my business. I don't know if that's the right way. That's how I'm doing it. There's other things that I need now that, you know, I'm in the process of figuring out how to scale and get some other more senior help on my team. But that's how I've been identifying it so far, is just like, I can't do it all. And when you first start out, you don't have the benefit or the luxury or the funds to hire people. So you have to do it all. But when you start to realize that there's more opportunity and you're getting more business and you can't, then you have the opportunity to expand and to grow and to hire people that make you look good.
I love that. I think it's a great way. Any way is the right way if it's working for you.
I mean, it works.
And so, what are some of the tools that you use? What are some of the products or books or apps or
Oh, wow.
just items in your office? Is there something that you think, are there some things that you think really help you be successful and to continue to grow?
Well, yes. I use a lot of Adobe products. They're really good for my organization of my campaigns. Airtable I use a lot for organizing campaigns, keeping them, you know, organized for clients to see, client feedback. There's a very varying types of like influencer tools on the market that I used. I've used Sprout, I've used Creator IQ. You know, we have different organizations that we use that we call on with like when we need micro or like large swaths of influencers that we'll go to and kind of use their influencer teams to help us kind of get a large amount of influencers really quickly. That's not my favorite thing to do, but some campaigns call for it. And so I'm kind of always on the lookout for new stuff, but I don't think any of those things are a substitute for a human touch.
But you know, they are helpful, in particular the social media support, because you just cannot do it all by hand. No human can.
No, you absolutely can't.
You have to have some kind of support, and you have to pay for it. You just got to buy the Adobe products. That's what you got to
You
do.
do. Unfortunately, it's definitely an expense you just got to add in. I use Canva quite a bit. It's a great presentation tool that you know, it's if you don't have a designer, it's the next best thing. Fortunately, my husband is a designer, so when I really need top quality things, he is my app. But
How do you pay him?
with inspiration and love.
So, all right, so you got all these products, you got all these people, you have all these campaigns, you have like the last at least 4 years you've been turning a profit and year-over-year growth. What are some of the biggest wins you've had? Because before, when you were an agency, you did all kinds of things with super celebrities. I mean, one of my favorite, I actually interviewed him once, was Kid President.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
he's great.
it's great. You know, you've been with the great and not so great. Since moving into your own entrepreneurship with the coincidence of having a child, what are some of your favorite wins that you've been able to accomplish as Randi Matthews?
Yeah, so I think one of my biggest wins, which has kind of led to the opportunity to have more business and to continue to grow my business, was when I first started and when I had just had my son. The only goal that I had was to be able to afford childcare. That was my first and only goal, was like, I just need childcare so that I can see if this business is viable. So I need at least one client. I just need one. And I'll never forget, I got brought on to a toy company. They hired me for a 3-week contract to come in and help them organize their influencer campaigns because someone had just left and they were kind of in a lurch. So I was like, yes, I will take it. 3 weeks. That's something I can make a little cash. That 3-week contract is turned into 4 years. They are still my number one client, and I do all their celebrity, I do all of their influencer work for them, and they afforded me the opportunity to hire care for my child and to continue to grow my business from there. So that's one of my biggest and like most proudest moments, is like the times that you don't think you can do something and then you do it and you do it well enough that someone keeps coming back, that's a real win.
I love that. That is exactly what this is about. You have the goal, you got to get childcare for your kid, and that childcare for your kid turns into years of equal support
Yep.
and having a case study and having a deck that you could go to the other clients. Is that where the snowball started to begin?
Yeah, so from there, then I do a lot of white labeling, which, for if you don't understand what white labeling is, it basically means that agencies, larger agencies, have won a client or won a bid or won some business, and they either don't have the bandwidth or the knowledge to do all of the things that they told this client that they were going to do. And so a lot of times I get brought in on projects like that, basically to fix or to put a band-aid where they didn't have one, right? And so I do a lot of that kind of business too. So it allows me to build my portfolio in a different way. So I work with a lot of agencies in that capacity.
I want to talk about that because here's one of the best things about this. You're not the only white labeler out there. You're a very talented white labeler. White labeler. Ha! But one of the great things about your agency work is you know your worth. A lot of independents don't understand just how much these people are getting paid to not do the work.
Oh yeah, it's really amazing. It's amazing to see how many agencies, big agencies, take on work and have no clue what they're doing. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because I've come from a lot of big agencies, but and get down the road and realize that they don't know what they're doing, and someone refers me. This is why relationships are so important. Keeping in touch with people, people understanding your value as well as you understand your value, because word of mouth and referral are my strongest friends in this industry. And that's how I get a lot of business. And that's how I get a lot of those white labeling opportunities, is because they know that I will come in and get the job done, and not just done, but well and right.
So what you just said is many listeners are like, this is my job. They have no idea what they're doing. I do all the work that makes sense and I get a fraction of the pay. What is your advice to them if they too, in their industry, whether it is social media or social marketing or whatever it is that they do, what is your advice for them to figure out how to start making moves
Mm.
from being an employee to an entrepreneur?
Well, first, let me say being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. And so you got to know yourself first. I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. Quite frankly, I always thought I was going to be working for somebody too. But you get to a point where, and again, motherhood changed that for me and may not change it for other people. It may make the need more intense to stay inside of a system after you have a child, because you want to have that stability and that reliability. But I would say know yourself first, know thyself, because if you are not a self starter, someone who can take a punch and keep going, someone who can, um, deal with a client at their best and their worst and doesn't need a buffer. That's a lot of being an entrepreneur, is you get the good with the bad. So a lot of times when you're inside of an agency or a brand or a system, there's someone else who can take the heat for you. But like when you're on your own, it's just you. And so I would say take some time and really understand yourself, how you work, what you're good at, what your skills are. And then outside of that, it's I do a lot of research. I do a lot of reading of like trades, understanding the industry, what's moving, where it's going. And then I always say this, and I just said this, but peer-to-peer networking is vital. Those are the people that grow with you. Those are the people that will be decision makers when you're ready to be a decision maker. Those are the people that are going to have money when you're ready to make money. And so being able to keep those relationships, but also make them look good when they bring you on, is a big part of that. So, people bring me on with confidence because they know that I can deliver. But if they bring you on and you make them look bad, then, that's not going to be a great thing for your career to grow. So I think it's multifaceted. And then it's always kind of just like reevaluating where you are in the marketplace. I can't charge as much as a big agency, but that doesn't mean I can't charge more than what I would be charging if I was just a freelancer. So you have to just understand value and worth. And now California, which is where I am, passed a law where they have to show how much jobs are being listed for. And so you can do that research really easily now. Like they're paying somebody $190,000 as an internal employee. What can you get as an entity coming into the system? So I think it's just staying on top of things and being, if you would say, if you you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
You just staying ready, Randy. and what you said is a common theme in mompreneurs: network across. Networking up sometimes, but it's the across. It's like sowing the fertilizer. It's planting the seeds, and also it's fun.
It's
You know,
fun.
and it's in it. And sometimes I think that it can be awkward talking to peers and everything. But if we don't talk to each other, how will we get the information? In
Right.
particular, in communities of color, in Black communities, we have purpose. My brother always tells me whenever I feel like I made a stupid mistake or I did something, I feel sometimes I do things in my business that makes no sense. And I should have seen that made no sense. And whenever
Right.
something like that happens, my brother's just like, bro, we were purposefully kept from much information. We have no instruction book on purpose. It's a miracle we're able to accomplish anything.
Really and truly. Like when I told my parents I was going to be an entrepreneur, that was such a foreign concept for them. It's like you stay at a company for 20 years, 30 years, you move your way up, and that's how you go. And then they're not taught about outside finances. I don't think my parents bought a house until they were in their 40s or 50s. And so like I was already out of the house by the time they were doing that. So I didn't learn any of that process or any of those things. So it's really true. It's a lot of like, you got to work with what you got. And we have friends and we have chosen family and we have people who can fill in the blanks that we don't have. And that's how you make your network, really. That's what a network is made up of.
We talked a lot about your enormous successes, your continued growth, the incredible clients that you have and what you've been able to accomplish for them. But we haven't delved into what one of my interviewees referred to, which I think is hilarious, as a mom fail. And I guess when you're an entrepreneur, whatever you're doing, if you're failing, it's also on a technical level a mom fail because you're trying to succeed for your
For your
family.
kid.
Which that's really that's like real dire, but okay. So we'll just go with it though. We'll say mompreneur fail. What is a time? And as we know, failure and learning leads to success. But what is a time where just you thought all was lost? This did not go well.
Oh gosh. I mean, how much time do you have? Because there's a lot of times that I fail. I'll tell you one thing that's kind of a fail, but it's something that I continue to do. I'm telling myself. One of the things that I would love to say that I do is to give opportunity to people who wouldn't normally have the opportunity to maybe be in this industry or access to an industry like this. At the very minimum, the opportunity to see if it's something that they want to do. And so because of that, I give chances to people who don't always on paper look like they will be great employees. That has burned me a few times, and to the point where, you know, the other part of this is because I'm a mom, my natural inclination is to want to help, and especially women and women of color, which is what I love to hire, people of color and women of color. And so sometimes I get into a place where I hold on too long, and to a point where it becomes detrimental to my business. Because I want to help and I want to be helpful and I want to give opportunity for growth and to learn. And I don't want to be the person that they then turn around and say, well, she did it just like everybody else did it. And that's not who I am as a person. And so I've almost lost some accounts because of holding on too long to people who I really wanted to see succeed, but didn't want it bad enough for themselves and couldn't see beyond their own flaws. And so, I have learned that lesson, but I also haven't learned that lesson because it won't be the last time that I do it. I can guarantee that.
But you might find the unicorn. You're searching for the unicorn.
I have found some unicorns who are amazing and are wonderful and have been the best employees that I could ever ask for. And I have found some who almost burnt my house down. And so, metaphorically, of course.
I was going to say metaphorically because why would they be in your house? No, but it's interesting. So that is part of, I am always terrified of hiring anyone because I cannot imagine firing them.
It's
That is
hard.
honestly, it's like I'm a glommer. Like it has to, I can't imagine being, I don't like being in charge of people's lives or finances
And
and
it's
having
really
to have
hard.
that
And again,
conversation.
everything stops with you, right? So there's no buffer. It's not like I can be like, HR is going to take care of it. It's me.
Not
I'm
yet.
HR. Yeah, not yet. So I'm the one having to have those hard conversations, and it can be contentious, and it can be, people don't want to take accountability for what part they played. And so it's really hard. It's hard. And so that is definitely something that you take the good and the bad with, but I definitely have almost lost some of my funds, some of my accounts, things to people that who ultimately don't have my best interest at heart. I'm just a company. I'm just paying them. They don't see it the same way as I do, and so you have to learn to kind of separate a little bit as well when you get, especially the higher up you get in business, the more the bigger accounts you take on. It can't just be from a place of wanting to help people. It has to be about the bottom line at some point, because I'm trying to take care of my baby.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Babies need food, and the finances have to either go to making more finances, or you gotta go. And that's so hard. It's a hard decision to make.
It really is. It really is. And so, like I said, that I don't necessarily look at it as a failure so much as, um, you know, a poor decision, but
Okay, in all of that, we are constantly thinking about the health and the mental health of the people, right? You're constantly thinking about these employees. What about your mental health? How, as a mompreneur, do you practice self-care, making sure you're not going insane, trying to be a great wife, trying to be a
uh,
great mom, trying to be a great CEO?
I don't, there's no good way to do that. I don't think. I think there's, like, take the time when you can. I've been doing a lot more, taking the opportunity to sleep more when I can. Like, I get my son ready in the mornings. I get him out the door. My husband takes him to school, and then I take a nap. You know, I've been trying to go swimming in the mornings when I can to make sure I can work on my health. I booked myself a massage on Friday for Mother's Day weekend. I mean, I don't think there's one way that I'm doing it. I try to just take the time when I can and like sneak stuff in for myself, and, hanging out with friends. It's a really good outlet for me, being able to just talk freely to people that I love and I care for. And that is a form of self care for me. And it looks different for everybody, I think. Sometimes for people, it's just like vegging out. Sometimes it's hiking. Sometimes it's, I don't know. I think it's just taking the moments that you can in your day and doing what you can to keep yourself going, essentially.
And what I hear, which is really important, is proactiveness, right? You booked yourself a massage. And it's nothing personal. If you wait for someone else to book it, it's going to be
It's
filled
never gonna
up.
happen. It's never gonna happen.
That Friday slot with your preferred masseuse shall not be available.
That's right. So you gotta take the initiative to take care of
Yeah,
yourself.
and that it's not personal. It's just business. It's business preparation for you because you are a business. Without you, the doesn't exist.
Exactly, exactly. And I think, you know, I think there's something to do with like having people to talk to. Like for some people, that's counseling and therapy, which I'm a big advocate of. I think it's also taking time to meditate if that's important to you, but also finding time to kind of shut your brain off if you can. Um, that's hard to do for women, harder to do, I think, for moms, to just be like, I'm one with myself, but I also need to pay that bill and pick up my kid from school and fill out that camp form. So we all know
Camp
that things
form.
are going on in the back of the head, but like if you can just like reboot yourself every now and again, it's a good thing.
I love it. Got to reboot.
Reboot.
Okay, well that's definitely wise, but can you leave our listeners and our watchers with your business life mantra? What are some words that you like to live by?
For me, service is my passion, being in service of other people, whether that looks like mentorship, whether that looks like being a listening ear, whether that looks like hiring people who don't understand that I'm giving them an opportunity, but maybe will later in life. Um, I think service for me is not only how I kind of walk through the world, but it's also my love language, being in service of other people. And so that is how I run my business. That is how I live my life. That is a lesson that I teach my son. It's service matters. And because when you are in service of others, people want to be in service of you.
Oh, I love that. Uh, Obviously, it's a multiple way street. Who are some of the people who served you? Who are some of the mentors and inspiring people that helped you along the way get to this point where you are the CEO of Multi Hyphen Media?
I mean, it takes a village, right? But I will say my very first mentors were my mom and my aunts. They were all really successful businesswomen in their own rights, in their own industries. They all grew up in different things, different fields. But seeing them succeed and being at high ranks of like businesses that you've probably heard of, um, is empowering to see that as a young woman of color growing up, to see like, oh wow, my family is crushing life, you know? Now we all know as we grow up that comes with challenges and sacrifices, and you know, you make decisions that are good for some things and poor for other things. But as a young little girl, I'm like, wow, my mom's awesome, my aunt's awesome, she has several PhDs, and my other aunt's a vice president of this company, and like that is a cool thing to see. And everybody doesn't have that opportunity to see strong women in business. And so even though I didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur, I kind of grew up with that foundation. I will say, in an industry like entertainment and marketing, there are not a lot of women of color who are doing what I do. And especially as I've come up in the ranks. And so for me, I haven't had a lot of industry mentorship. So a lot of what I have done has been, again, a trial and error, kind of like wiggling my way into places that I have seen the opportunity, and then either failing miserably or not. And so, and being ready to like rebound, like I said earlier, I think that is something that I think I learned from sports. I grew up running and playing volleyball, and I was a captain. And so you learn a lot about team building and being able to take a loss and dealing with
Getting
different
right back out there.
personalities, getting right back out there. So I think those are applicable life um, habits that I have, integrated into how I live. And then now I think it's my friends, people like you, and people that, inspire me, that I talk to, who give me the real, who are not afraid to tell me like the truth about things, and also who are not afraid to open a door for me, and vice versa. And that is really how you continue to like move things forward as a mom, as a woman, as a sister, as a friend, as a mompreneur.
So, because there's not that many industry people who could mentor you, that's why you kind of have slid in there, and you're an industry mentor to so many, and you give so many people opportunities. Who is a client that would be a dream client for you? Like, if you could think of someone that someone could introduce you to or make happen, what would you love to add as a deck on your roster? Of course, more
Oh,
than just a deck on your roster, but who would be the dream client?
I don't think it's one client. I think for me, I've always really wanted to work at like a Stand Up to Cancer or like a St. Jude's, but in their social and like celebrity and influencer department. Y'all, those jobs are hard to get. People do not leave those jobs. And I have always really wanted to be able to innovate those types of opportunities, because I think there's so much more that they could be doing and so many more audiences that they could be reaching. Um, and some do really well. I think there's some that like that I think are a little slower to get into the like new hip mainstream things as they probably see it. Um, but so I think like again, it goes back to service. It's like I would love to work for like a Red Bull or whatever. Those are great too. But I think for me, it's like being able to innovate a space that I is gonna ultimately impact someone's life is a lot better of a goal for me than just a name brand.
I think that's so key. And one of the things that you do is you help these companies understand the internet and how things have changed because the interesting thing about being the Olivia Pope of social marketing is that you provide an opportunity for people to take a risk in changing routines that could lead to huge benefits and tremendous success.
It's true. And the other part of that is people feel safe with what they've always known and seen. So a lot of times they stay with these huge Goliath industry leaders because that's who they have always been with. And sometimes it's seen taking a chance on someone like me because I'm a small boutique with, smaller team, but my industry experience and my network is vast. And so it's one of those things where like they take a risk on me, they take a risk on opening up other channels and other networks that they maybe haven't been able to access before because I bring a different skill set. I'm able to be more nimble. I'm a lot more collaborative. And so sometimes people see that as scary. When really, to your point, I think it gives them an opportunity to open themselves up to things that they could never even have thought about before.
And so when we're thinking about the things that you're thinking about, I can't let you leave without participating in one of my favorite segments of this podcast, which we call Mompreneurs Manifestation. And I ask each of my guests what is next for you and you want to help buoy it and bring it to fruition, or what are you hoping comes next so that we can manifest success in this endeavor for you.
I like it. I have a few different manifestations that I'm going to put out there. The first one has nothing to do with my day-to-day business, Multi Hyphen Media, but I have been working on a documentary for the better part of 4 years about the Black maternal crisis in America. It's called Deliver Us. And so we are in post-production and heading fast and furiously to the finish line to release it. It's a really important project. It is obviously about the Black maternal crisis in America, but through the lens of Black midwives, how they are advocating and saving lives. And so I think it's a really fresh perspective. It is through the lens of solution and hope. And so I am manifesting that it is everywhere and everybody will be well received and will be able to get it finished and out to the public in an impactful way. So that's my first manifestation.
And that's Deliver Us documentary, right?
DeliverUsDoc.com.
Yay.
And then I am in the position of scaling my business, like I had mentioned earlier, which means bringing on some C-suite people to take my Multi Hyphen Media to the next level. But as we know, that takes capital, takes access, it takes some things that sometimes is hard to get as a person of color, a Black woman. And so I am manifesting being able to find those resources and use them to benefit my business.
All right. So anyone listening who knows of resources for Randi to continue to grow, we've seen year after year growth and the best is yet to come. We are so grateful. Aside from your awesome documentary on Black maternal health from the perspective of midwives, which are so key and so important, that's at deliverusdoc.com. Where can our listeners and watchers find you on the internet to learn more about what you and Multi Hyphen Media do?
Yeah, so my website is multi-hyphenmedia.com. It's pretty easy. I also do a lot of posting on LinkedIn. So my personal profile on LinkedIn. And then my Instagram is Making Moves Matthews.
Yay, well, you're making moves. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for listening. And thank you, Randi, for being with us today.
Thank you. This was really fun. I had such a good time talking to you.
And as a reminder, a brand new episode of Mompreneurs goes live each Monday on Urban One Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit urban1podcast.com. That's urban1podcast.com. Mompreneurs is brought to you by the Urban One Podcast Network and MadameNoire. Created, produced, and hosted by me, Nancy Wren. Executive produced by Sarita Wesley, Allison McGovna, and Tanya Hoffler-Moore. Produced and edited by Jiminique Miller.